Hello everybody and welcome back to Kerbal Space Program, where we got this S1 truss segment nearly ready to go. But one thing I remembered is that this decoupler, it absolutely did not work. So we're going to need to remove all of this from here, right? But what we need to do is like reroute this so that it's actually... Well, no, what we need to do specifically here is undo this. Okay, that apparently reverted it back to the save. Yeah, okay. We need to bring this back out to 90 degrees here. What we need to do is we need to remove this docking port junior for the moment. And then we take the truss segment off. The docking port junior is going to replace this decoupler, right? And we're just going to have this be on here like so. So we can actually undock this. Okay, now we can take this modular girder segment and attach it onto here. And that kind of breaks these struts, I think, but whatever. I guess that's fine. So I want to remove this strut for the moment. There we go. This strut can get removed as well. So can this one and this one. So that is 4 total struts. I believe that's all of them. So that's fine for now. But of course, what we need to do here is we need to be moving this guy, right? I want this to be centrally located. So with snapping on, let's put it right there. And it'll need to go this way a little bit. Looks good. And then it'll need to go this way a wee bit as well. So somewhere around here, in theory. Actually, does it need to go further? It does. It needs to go somewhere around here. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to remove from this docking port. We've now rerouted that. And I'm just going to put it up here for the time being, because it'll be a little bit easier to work on. Then I'm going to grab this component here and reposition it onto here. So we want to make sure that it is in this orientation. That is correct. And I want to make sure that it is on the actual docking port as well. I think this is attaching to the big orange tank. So that makes things mildly awkward, right? No doubt about that. I'm pretty sure that's attached to the big orange tank. Okay. So something along the lines of this. I want it to be more like that, right? But I guess this will do for the time being. No, don't grab that. Stop it. I want to grab this docking port. There we go. Have to be pixel perfect on that one. So I guess that isn't really going to be all that helpful, right? But we need this to go in this directionality. Yes. That looks about right. Phenomenal. So let's stow it now. And we can see we definitely are clipping out here with that additional distance. So that is certainly a bit of an issue. I don't want to be clipping out like that. So I guess what we need to do here then is reduce the amount of distance here. We could move this RCS fuel tank. That is an option. And we shouldn't need this telescoping hydraulic cylinder. That can be gotten rid of. We could launch it as is and just be like it's going to clip out, but I don't like that solution. So instead, I would prefer to find a way to reduce some distances here. And I think the best thing that we can do here is simply moving this docking port inward, and then moving this modular girder segment inward a bit as well. That'll compress things down, but it's not enough. That doesn't compress it enough, which surprises me, actually. Indeed, that does surprise me a small amount. I would have expected that we wouldn't be clipping out quite this much. So, length is clearly an issue here. Again, we could do something with this RCS tank. That is an option. What would we want to do with it? That's a fair question. Yeah, I wasn't expecting this. That's for sure. That is definitely an unexpected situation here. So, I mean, the reason this is happening is because previously we were just connected with a decoupler, right? That didn't work. So, we need to figure out why that didn't work. It should have worked. And it would be a decent solution. So let's pull this out to 90 degrees again. Maybe the decoupler was just facing the wrong direction, or maybe it was just bugged. I don't know. I'm going to pull this back off of here. We're going to take this docking port off, and I didn't mean to remove all of this. I want to remove just this docking port. We can put a decoupler back on there and then run a quick test. We can use a TD06 decoupler, and it might be that it was facing the wrong way. So we could just run a quick test, something along the lines of this, right? So then we would deposit this guy about here. We would change the positioning of it to be about like that, approximately. Okay. And then we would reattach this docking port junior, and that should, of course, go on with snapping enabled. That should go on right in the center point. Now, we would like to move this up a little further, but we actually can't. So it would end up going about there and would be a potential explosion hazard for the decoupler. We could just move this later with Kerbal construction, and I think that's probably the way to go. Okay, let's put this out on the pad. We are going to revert this. The only thing I want to do is test, and this is probably going to sag horribly, but I want to test this decoupler and see if it actually decouples. If it does, then this is great. If it doesn't, we'll have to find a different solution. Because previously, it didn't decouple for reasons unknown. But we definitely want it to decouple. It didn't decouple previously. So it might be facing the wrong direction previously, but either way, it should have decoupled, and then we would have just had to remove the part if it was in the wrong spot. Of course, we're not going to be launching this right now. We're going to be reverting it. I just want to test that decoupler and make sure it works. And yeah, as expected, that is sagging horribly. That is absolutely expected. All we need to do, though, is grab this guy, and yeah, it appears to decouple nicely. And surprisingly, it didn't break until it got to the bottom. Okay, so that is fine. As I said, we're definitely going to revert that. I just wanted to make sure the decoupler was working because it didn't work previously. So there we go. The decoupler is indeed working. We can turn down the force percent on this, probably down to like 0 or 1%. We don't want much force with that decoupler, to be honest. Honestly, I kind of want it at 0%. So that'll do for now. Now we can re-stow this, and we can just unextend that, fold it back in with our hinge. Just barely seeing a bit of clipping there. Okay, so to that end, what we can do is we can grab our extender. Hang on. I guess that works. I think that we moved the RCS fuel tank there. It's now snapped into position, in theory. Yeah, it's snapped into position there. I intended to move this guy, though. Okay, we'll need to turn snapping off. There. Hopefully moving this doesn't significantly change our setup for our aerodynamics. That'd be mildly problematic. Unfortunately, we're still clipping through a little bit here. So we definitely need to pull this back a little further, surprisingly. So I guess we can grab this guy and just do something kind of like that. That's not enough. Man. Yeah, that's just not quite enough. I guess we can grab our alligator hinge and move that down a bit. That's definitely a thing we can do. Okay, so now we're fitting in there decently. Cool. So that's fine for now. Let's strut this into place, of course. So we're going to put a strut here. I'm going to... didn't want to move that necessarily. I'm going to put a strut here. I'm going to put a strut over on this side as well, like that. And then we're going to put a fourth strut that is down here, just linking like that. I just want to make sure this thing's not going anywhere, so we're anchoring it down nice and firmly. Okay, so that should be the S1 truss segment good to go, in theory, and we should be ready to launch this thing. So let's save that, put it out on the pad, and the question is, are we going to have another clean detach of our SRBs? So far, we're 2 for 2, but we'll find out. Okay, so we're, of course, going to be launching via MechJeb because that does get us there faster, which is, of course, a very, very good thing. We definitely want to speed up our cadence a bit here. So let's head on over to the pad as soon as we get loaded on up. There we go. And targeting 200 kilometers is reasonably fine. We're still loading. That took a moment. Okay, so we want to target the ISS here. So we'll set that as our target, launch into plane of target, and that is, of course, going to be in about 2 hours, so we will warp on forward. Cool. So it is very nice to not have to, like, line up the camera and do the warp manually and things like that. That definitely does save a lot of episode time, so I think that's reasonably great. MechJeb will, of course, get us into a decent orbit, and I want to make sure that we didn't mess up any of our staging. I don't think we did. No, it's all okay. Where is this stage at, though? That's one question. It's this one. Okay, gotcha. We're just going to move that guy straight on up over here. Cool. So we're going to lift off here in about 2 seconds. 1 mark. And off we go. Excellent. So we can see the station is nearly directly above us right now, but we're just launching into plane. We can see about getting a rendezvous, but I kind of doubt it. We'll probably just do that the normal way. That's okay. This does feel a little bit on the slow side, but we appear to have a bit of frame rate, probably because of the truss segment. I'm kind of concerned, to be honest, about the frame rate of the ISS once we get that built. It's probably going to be on the spicy side. We'll see how that ends up going, though. So off we go here. We've got an apoapsis of about 3 kilometers. It's not very high at all right now. Thrust to weight feels a little on the slow side, but we are okay. 1.88, 1.89, it's fine. We're definitely going to be building up a good amount of speed here. And all is looking good there. How are we doing on that inclination? The answer is about 40 degrees. Sure. So that seems fine. We've got about 45 seconds now until our SRBs are out of fuel. But things appear to be running a little slower than 1 second per second right now, which I'm not super shocked about. It's a fairly complex payload that we're carrying. No doubt about that. And of course we've got things like these SRBs with all of these little separatrons. Things will get a lot better once we ditch some of these parts. That's for sure. So upward we go here about 14 kilometers on the apoapsis thus far. And we've got about 30 seconds left in our SRBs. Inclination looks approximately correct, which it should with MechJeb. We should be expecting it to be approximately correct. No doubt about that. And about 24 seconds on the SRBs until we figure out exactly what is going to be happening with those. Hopefully they'll be okay. Oh, I forgot to remove the standard canards. I intended to do that because they didn't actually help. I intended to remove those, but I forgot to do it. That's okay. That's going to be just a small cost savings more than anything. To be clear, the reaction wheels actually do help. Not so much when these detach, but as we are flying through the lower atmosphere and we don't have a lot of control surface yet. That's when that's good. So we're down to 6 seconds on the SRBs. 5, 4. I'm going to do it at 2 seconds. So now. And off they go. Excellent. So we're going to, of course, pick up a bit of an oscillation here. This is fairly normal. I wonder if this would get better if we added struts here in the center. I don't know. I think this is probably just a rotational issue, right? And we know that bringing our gimbal limit down to 33 here does actually significantly help it. So I think it's just that we're over gimbaled at this point. So that's absolutely fine. Our apoapsis is currently about 51 kilometers. I'm actually not going to skip circularization. There's no real point in skipping circularization. I don't know why it had that selected. But there's also not really a point in not doing it. It's not like circularization is complicated. So it's reasonably fine. So this is okay for the moment. MechJeb really likes to sit in this, like, wacky angle. I don't know why, but whatever. I'm not too concerned about that. For the moment, we're pushing our apoapsis up a little bit further. We're currently at about 60 kilometers, so that's looking good. No problem whatsoever there. And we're currently at about 1,400 liquid fuel left in our big orange tank. We've got lots and lots of fuel left. Checking in on our inclination, that is at 1.8 degrees. Looks good. 1.7 now. Excellent. And we're going to be hitting space with our apoapsis right now. We have a lot of horizontal speed to go. No doubt about that. We're only at 1,400 meters per second there. We're still doing okay vertically. And as you can see, we're currently angling the engines to be approximately perpendicular to the ground. Or I guess parallel to the ground, not perpendicular. Perpendicular would be bad here. What am I talking about? Parallel to the ground. So that is, of course, exactly what we're looking for. And our speed is definitely increasing by a lot now. We're up to 1.98 thrust to weight on just our shuttle main engines. And that's looking great. No problem whatsoever here. Horizontal speed is nearly up to orbital standard. Not quite. We've got a few hundred meters per second to go there, but getting very, very close. And our apoapsis height is getting up there too. Almost to 200. It is, of course, exponential, so that'll be fine. We're going to be fine-tuning the apoapsis very shortly here. There we go. Fine-tuning apoapsis. Perfect. And there we go. Now we can see that it's definitely going to be a bit here, coasting to edge of atmosphere, and there we go, 173.7 meters per second. Cool. So now we're coasting to the circularization burn, and the question is, how are we going to do at actually intercepting? I'm just wondering, what would happen if we attempted to intercept here? I'm going to disengage the autopilot here. And actually, we still want the smart ASS. Where is that? Here it is. There we go. So we'll head over to the node. And in the meantime, I want to check to see what would this look like if we attempted an interception here. Okay. Obviously, this is not what we want. So we're going to bring that back on down. Timing isn't perfect, so we are going to wait then. We do need to get into orbit. That is top priority right now. So something like this is absolutely fine. We're aligned to the node, and let's warp on through. Excellent. So this is only going to be a 7-second burn time. But once we get into orbit here, we will ditch our big orange tank and work on internal fuel. 50 seconds. 40, 30, 20, 10, and 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. Okay. We're chasing the node here. I'm just keeping an eye on our periapsis height. This is good enough. So with us in this position, we are at 0.2 on the ascending-descending node. That is not bad. So looking over here, are we going to need to... Yeah, I think we're getting further apart at this moment. So we'll need to toss in probably an orbit or two. Yeah, something like that. That'll do. So that's absolutely fine. Let's head over to that node. And we probably want to reconfigure for spaceflight as well. That would probably not be a bad idea. We still have some fuel left in this tank, 900 meters per second, but we don't need it. So we're going to ditch it here, and we'll reconfigure for orbital flight. Okay, Bill, let's go. So downward we go. And we'll just grab onto the ladder that's right here. There we go. And let's reconfigure. So we'll need to remove our struts. One. Of course, there isn't one on this side. There's one over here. Two. Just connect it to something. I don't care what. Three. Actually, that was three. This one. And four. There we go. Change our engine orientation to 0 degrees. And we'll strut it right back in. So we've got one. If it goes here. Okay, there we go. 2. 3. And finally, where's the strut? Here's a strut. 4. There we go. We are reconfigured for orbital flight. That was a very weird direction to be facing there, Bill, but okay. And let's head right back in. Excellent. Align to the node. And let's warp. So it'll be a couple of orbits here. And that's absolutely fine. But now it's going to be about 1 minute. So we'll warp forward a little further. 50, 40, 30, 20, 10, and 3, 2, 1, 0, mark. Oh, we're still at full thrust here. Full thrust is maybe a little overkill. Let's bring this right on down to about 10% thrust, as we've determined is about what we need for the orbital maneuvers that we do. Okay, let's just get that in there. That'll do. 0.1 meters per second is more than good enough. Okay, so now it's going to be about 3 kilometer separation. We can warp, not to next maneuver. Hang on. Stop it. We can warp to about here. There we go. And of course, the station should be away from Kerbal for us. And what is our current... There it goes. Okay, so at this point, we're in target mode. I want to... Why can't I steer? Oh, we're still in warp. Okay. No wonder things felt really, really, really strange there. Okay, so target mode. We're pretty far apart right now. Let's get flipped around here, and we're going to need to... Hang on. We're going to need to burn out over this way. We're pretty far apart right now. So we need to bring this node over and do a big corrective burn. So that'll be fine. We can see that, yeah, there's like 18.5 kilometer separation right now. Yeah, that was not great. I'm not sure exactly what ended up happening in that warp, but that might have been that bug where when we start to warp, it recalculates our trajectory for unknown reasons. That might be the case. Okay, so I'm actually going to turn over here and start pulling over towards target. Because we were slowing down a little bit more than I wanted to there. But we absolutely need to burn quite a bit of fuel here to get this under control, right? So it's a fair amount of Delta V that we're going to have to burn to get in here. This was apparently not a great transfer, although it should have been a reasonably fine one. So we're just going to continue to pull this on over. We're going prograde right now rather than retrograde. So we're just continuing to move this in a bit. Okay, now I'm going to flip over to the retrograde side and start slowing us down. We're still more interested in changing our directionality than anything else. So we need to push this out over here, right? So we're changing that directionality, and we're going to go to relative velocity minus pretty soon here. We are pretty close to the station. and we're going to want to continue to drop our relative speed. No doubt about that. So let's go to relative speed minus at this point. We're pretty close here, although it's not perfect. We actually can overshoot it out this way a little bit. Something about like that. Approximately. That's now 0.7 kilometers. We did burn a lot of our internal fuel for that. That's okay. We honestly should have plenty to get home still. I'm not too concerned about that. So we're going to warp in here. We're moving relatively slowly relative to the station. So that's reasonably fine. Let's just slow this on down here a bit. And I'm doing a tiny amount of trajectory correction. Cool. So we're down to about 30 meters per second now. 20. And 10. Okay, I'm going to park here for the moment. We definitely see the frame rate dropping. No doubt about that. This is not great. I think the game needs a restart, so I'll definitely do that after this episode, and that does mean that we're not going to do the installation this episode, so we're going to do that next episode and then bring this guy on down at that point. It's interesting that the cursor is absolutely fine, but you can definitely see the frame rate there. That usually means that the game needs a restart, so we'll definitely do that. It is about time to put a cut in here, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now, and next episode we're going to bring this in, finalize our approach, and get this docked up. You can leave your offerings to the engagement gods in the form of likes, comments, subscribes, and bell ringings, and a very special thank you to all of the channel members for making this video possible, including ALS Gamer, Shadow Wolf, Andy McGar, Upper Cumberland Gamers, Nick Smarty, Dimitri H, Punching the Microphone, Soccerman12UK, Kentogan, and all the rest. And of course, you. Thank you for watching. If you'd like to support the channel, you can click the join button down below the video, and as always, I will see you all next time.